Welcome to the Overflow Podcast at theoverflowpodcast.com. Coming soonish. So my name is Joaquin.
I'm still Jay.
And we are here for this week's episode. We are super excited because I'm just going to go ahead and introduce him. Because I'm excited that he's here. We have with us Hunter. Say hi. Say hi, Hunter. Oh, well, let me.
Hunter's enough. That's good.
We got Hunter, who is pastor of Encounter Church in Ackworth, Georgia.
Right. You know,
I always get confused because it's like
right that border.
It's right
it's
there.
Kennesaw, actually.
Actually, still Kennesaw.
So it's I was right last week.
So bugged out. Well,
Jay yelled at me last week.
You guys know we've shared that we started going to a new church.
Yes.
Called Encounter Church.
Encounter.
And this is our new pastor.
This is our new
church.
our new pastor. So.
I'm new.
No, it's for me it's legit. We dedicated Sonia there last week. That was
okay.
Sweet.
A big hard step
I didn't,
for me.
but my child was not dedicated, so I'm not at the step yet.
You are your child.
until I go forward and Hunter picks me up and presents me to the Lord.
You might have a problem with that.
I guess you ain't never gonna be dedicated.
You can't see me. If you could see me, you'd know that's a problem. I'm 5'6" on my best day.
So we're super excited for this week's episode. We got a couple of things we want to hit you guys up with. Jay.
Yo.
What do you want to do first? Let's go ahead and let's do music first. Since we just watched the video. We're going to mix things up. For those of you that are used to our way of doing things.
Yeah, we do whatever we want. It's our show. All right, so
switching
check
it
this out. So our song of the week is Wesside by WHATUPRG.
Wesside.
Now, we have spoken about WHATUPRG a couple weeks ago when he got signed to Reach Records.
Right. And,
so this is his...
And he had his little maxi mini single.
Right.
Glow.
This is the first single off of his official Reach Records release. Right. So the EP is called Pleasant Hill. Which is...
where he lives.
A street here in Gwinnett County. You know, he's always representing Georgia. He's always repping Gwinnett.
Yes.
Right. So he keeps it in that line, you know, with his first EP. So first single off his first EP. First single is Wesside off his first EP, Pleasant Hill. Shout outs to Alex the DJ, who's the DJ in the video. Another one of our guys. Right.
Another one of the kids we torture, yes. In love.
I'll say it now. So you guys can get ahead.
You can laugh, Hunter, because I'm it's funny.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
Next week, I wish we could have done 2 songs for this week, but next week I want to bring out No Big Deal song Psycho Heart.
Okay, I've not listened to it yet. That? We'll do that one next week. So be on the lookoot for it.
You got it.
Matter of fact, we just mentioned it, so go ahead and type it on the Googles, and you will find it, or the YouTubes.
The YouTubes,
as it were.
The YouTubes, the Spotify's, the Apple Music's.
You know this
because it's not iTunes anymore.
The Googles.
Right, it's not iTunes anymore.
Oh, it's Apple Music.
It's Apple Music because they,
That's right.
Hunter talking about the changing scenery of music. Like Apple has finally decided to stop selling downloads of albums and singles and stuff on Apple Music.
So where do you buy the music? You buy it on iTunes?
You don't buy it. It's going to be a straight streaming service like Spotify. They were losing money. They weren't making any money. Like people weren't buying music anymore.
No, but so then how do people say they're on the iTunes charts?
Apple Music now.
See, because I pulled up iTunes, I can still get iTunes.
Yeah, give it some time. They're gonna get rid of it.
I call shenanigans. Shenanigans. All right.
So then you can check it out on the Googles.
All right. I don't care about Apple.
On the dark corner of the interwebs.
You know, because of Apple's, the whole world got turned upside down. So any Apple product is just a byproduct of that first act of sin.
You cannot.
I'm only doing that because the pastor's here.
You cannot say any jokes tomorrow. You're banned from joking all day tomorrow.
I'm going to go hide my iPhone.
Oh, Pastor. Oh, Pastor. Oh, Pastor and Jay. Hold up, let me bless some. Let me bless some water.
Did you
I'm gonna
hear
bless
the
the coffee?
legalism?
Holy coffee.
When the iPhones
I
came
rebuke
out,
you.
did you hear all the legalism about the iPhones? Like, it wasn't until the iPhone that legalists saw the logo for Apple.
Oh, I didn't know.
They were like, oh,
I don't
esa
roll it.
manzana mordida como la manzana.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
the
what
apple.
Bible said it was an apple. Come on.
I got like 20 there that say it was. I mean, don't and ignore that like the handwritten words on each page.
All the drawing.
The drawing. I didn't. It's not like I have nothing to do.
Anyway,
all right. So
WHATUPRG,
So WHATUPRG,
Wesside.
super excited for this
Check out
kid.
the
Go
video.
check him out. All right. So we're not gonna talk too much about this.
Pero.
But we're gonna mention it because it is the #1 movie of the weekend. I think it gained more money than Avengers did opening.
I was about to say that.
It
last
beat-
thing that came out this morning is that it beat Avengers Infinity War.
For
the weekend,
For the
opening
weekend.
weekend.
The opening weekend. We're talking about Deadpool 2. It's not passive. Please don't hold this against us, but it is rated R. So if you're under if you're under the age of whatever 17, don't go out. Hey, listen, if you're a parent,
Don't take your kids.
Don't take your kid. If you take your kid, I hope you get real uncomfortable when they start asking you questions that you're just not really prepared to answer.
Or you get real uncomfortable when they start repeating the words that they learn at a rated R movie.
At a rated R
It's just
movie.
ridiculous. You don't take any kid to any
No.
rated R movie ever. Right?
So
Come on, let's be
with
smart.
With that public announcement, Deadpool 2.
Since it just came out, we're not going to do anything.
We're not gonna
right?
do like a real we're not gonna get in depth. But what you think?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
I thought it was a good sequel.
It was a good sequel. It probably had a few issues. I'd have to watch it again to kind of pick out the issues that I might have had with it. But I really enjoyed it. I was laughing. The people around me were laughing.
It was entertaining, right? Because it's Ryan Reynolds, so it was entertaining.
Yeah, it was super entertaining. The jokes,
All the laws that he broke.
yes,
Right? Like I was telling you, like Deadpool exists in all universes.
right.
In all universes. Like he broke every single law and rule. It was awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah,
But
I don't know about that, but we'll get into
we'll
that
get into
later.
that next week. Right? We'll give them this weekend and the following week to see.
All right, so Junior, go watch it so that you don't cry about.
Or if not,
spoilers.
just fast forward to the second half. Pero mira, it was funny, right? It was funny. It was
entertaining,
right? And it had enough action to keep you on your seat.
a lot of action, and actually it had a pretty couple of heartfelt moments. I mean, for that kind of movie,
You take off the rated R-ness of the movie, and it was actually a really heartfelt story.
Yes, there was a heartfelt story there.
It was a heartfelt story.
It was just wrapped in a lot of.
in my heart.
Right?
It was just wrapped in a lot of violence.
Deadpool loved the
and
kids.
curse words.
Deadpool loved the kids. He loved the kids.
So, if
It was a
does,
family movie.
if and he said it, if it does not violate your conscience, go watch the movie. Let us know what you think.
and if it does,
Then don't watch the
then
movie.
don't watch it.
You can go watch I Can Only Imagine. I believe it's still in the theaters.
I don't think it is.
And there's Pure Flicks. You can go to that. And
I don't think it is, but
no, it is because I saw
You
it.
can watch-
I thought about going to see it today.
maybe the
but
dollar
I had
bill.
already had church.
you can watch Samson. I saw Samson the other night. You can watch Samson.
That's not in theaters though.
It's not in theaters anymore.
No,
What's
That
the
was-
one that's still in theaters? Paul.
I Can Only Imagine.
Paul is also still in some theaters.
Maybe, maybe. The Pope documentary is also in theaters.
Who the heck cares? Did
But,
you see the picture they used for the Pope documentary?
Yeah.
He looks like a psycho. You see that? I saw that poster and I'm like, why did they use this picture
El Papa.
of all pictures?
El Papa looking like a Papa.
El Papa psicótico, mira.
So, all right. So now,
anytime Joaquin speaks Spanish, he speaks with a Dominican accent. It's the funniest
anytime not anytime I speak Spanish. Is anytime I do
Well,
like joke
like
Spanish,
jokes or satire,
like
yeah.
jokes or whatever in Spanish. I'm always Dominican. I don't understand it. Maybe because that's just the best accent to make fun of. All right.
To our Dominican listeners.
So to our
yes,
Dominicans,
he just said that.
sí lo dije.
¿Qué te pasa?
¿Qué te pasa, mijo? Sigue tu chiste. I can say that because my godfather is Dominican, right? That's the thing now, right? You can say things, and as long as somebody in your family is that thing, you're allowed
You
to
can
say that
because you have Dominican friends.
I have Dominican friends. My godfather and mother are Dominican, so I can say that. And I've actually visited. So there we go. I'm covered.
And Wasker will forgive you anyway. So right?
And Wasker, yes, Wasker and Joel.
Joel. I know a Dominican.
I know a Dominican.
I think I flew over the Dominican Republic once.
There you go. You're covered too.
Okay, right.
You're friends with us. We extend that
right.
covering.
We extend the covering.
We extend the covering. So a couple of bits of news that we just kind of want to hit up because it's been pretty eventful news week. So let's go ahead and start with I didn't work on Thursday and Friday. I had to go to some training, so I didn't watch any news during that time. But the first 3 days of last week, everything was royal wedding. So in case you don't know, there was a royal wedding this weekend. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry tied the knot over in jolly old England. Right? And from all accounts, people were like, "Oh, it was awesome." I know people that woke up early. So they go.
Oh yeah.
So they go watch
people
it.
that woke up early and had
to watch it.
Wedding.
Are you kidding me?
Parties.
Yeah.
I know somebody
with tiaras and tea and crumpets and biscuits and.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that
fish and chips.
Those were mostly like filled with females. I'm just gonna go on that limb, even though I know a dude who got up early, and I'm like, come on, bro, really? You're gonna get up early? And then he was like, you know what I'm doing this morning? I was like, why are you watching a wedding? Unless it's Wedding Crashers, and then you can watch that. But
because it's rated R.
Because it's rated R. But no. But here's the thing. So obviously,
but it's a big deal.
Big deal.
American
biracial
American biracial woman
who's now a princess,
right? who is also older than Harry.
Oh, is she older than him?
She's older than Harry, and also like Kate. Is that her name?
Yeah, Kate.
Like after she married William, right?
Correct.
Is that?
Yeah. It's William.
After she married William, then she got involved in all these charities and all these organizations and all these other things, right?
Right.
Whereas Meghan has already been doing that.
Right. Correct.
She's already been a part of UNICEF. She's already an ambassador, a UN ambassador for women and all this stuff. And then I learned today that Prince Harry also he befriended when he was a soldier. And
he was a pilot,
right? But he befriended a kid. I forget what country in Africa.
Oh yeah, and he brought him to the.
The wedding.
I just saw that.
Right, I saw that this morning. So this is pretty dope. So it is a big thing because of the fact that she's biracial, right?
Correct.
The fact that she's American, right? And then the fact that she's an actress.
Well, not anymore.
No, not anymore.
Why you gonna be an actress? You're a princess now.
Not anymore, but
you're living the real life Disney.
Dude, the funny thing is that, right? Again, I work for the news. So some women at my job were super excited. These are the women that I'm sure had wedding viewing parties.
Yes.
Right? And they're like, oh my God, it's so inspiring. This means that there's still hope for us, right? Any one of us can become a princess. And I laughed harder than that, right?
You know what though? I should have capitalized on those wedding parties because all these women all excited about seeing other.
You're the Prince of Puerto Rico.
I'm the Prince of Puerto Rico, baby. Príncipe, baby.
No, but listen,
all these women all want to get married, right? So I can perform my own wedding. I'm licensed. I can perform my own wedding.
They're like, hey, there's hope for us. And I laughed so loud, like, are you crazy? No, there's not. No, there's not. Not just to be mean that you girls are hopeless, but you don't run into circles. You don't run into places. You never.
It's a long time to wait. It's a long time to wait.
This ain't the movies.
That's a long time to wait for Prince William's sons to grow up. They're like 3. He's like 3. That's a long time. You ain't gonna.
You think that you're gonna go and find your prince? So,
but
hey, my prince.
Well, you need to introduce me to them, and my name is Prince.
No.
No. Okay.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. You wouldn't subject them to me. That's what he's saying.
I wouldn't subject you to them.
That's what he's. I'm reading between the lines.
I wouldn't subject you to them. I wouldn't even subject someone
that I hate.
Ay,
bendito.
So anyway, so
we got all that now. All right, here we go. The last two things. So we're gonna one, and then the second one is gonna leap us right into, our conversations with Hunter, Pastor Hunter, El Pastor Hunter.
Tacos al pastor.
Hunter El Pastor.
I had some on Friday.
So number one.
Thursday.
So we're gonna bring this up because we always try to bring these up. But there was the shooting, Santa Fe High School. In Texas. It was right outside of
Galveston, right?
Houston. It was
Austin, Houston, Galveston.
Yeah, Houston.
Galveston.
Because all the Houston pastors that I'm connected to, they were all talking about just like even like Matt Chandler. Matt Chandler said he went to high school.
Yeah, Houston.
Like right in that area, right? The next high school over.
Okay.
Close to Santa
So
Fe.
there was a shooting, Santa Fe High School. There was 10 victims, 9 students, 1 teacher. Mm-hmm. And those are the ones that
he was a substitute teacher.
Passed.
Right? That's like
what a day to go.
Yeah, Glenda.
He was substitute.
Oh wait. 8 students and 2 teachers. I'm looking here at the wiki.
All right, so I know one of them was a substitute.
And
it's like
they were both.
You get called in to work one day,
and they were both females, Glenda and Cynthia.
Indeed.
Yeah, and the shooter had planned to commit suicide, but they got him first.
They got him, and I read that he said he couldn't do it. Man,
like he could have shoot himself.
Yeah, he was
going to shoot all those people. You can't shoot yourself.
Well, but that's a big. Listen, but that's a big deal to yourself.
Yeah. You're gonna wish you had once you got caught.
But so the kid was 17 years old, and obviously right now they're doing the investigations. No problems. It's not like the Parkland shooter where there was like all these red flags that were missed.
Right. This kid was just
a teacher
just
said
angry.
Yeah, a teacher just said like that. A teacher, he was in her like a pre-AP class or something, and she was like, yeah, he was quiet, but he wasn't like that weird kid quiet. He was just a quiet kid. So.
He looked a bit.
We'll figure out. Who knows?
But anyway,
who knows what's gonna happen? So
the sad thing was that one of the students was interviewed, like a survivor,
right?
And it made me sad to hear her say that, like, she wasn't surprised that it happened. Right? It's like it's almost like school shootings are becoming normalized. Right? Like they're like, yeah, it's been happening so much in other schools. Now it doesn't surprise me that it happened here. It's like, no, it should surprise you. It should surprise. It should surprise everyone.
Well, the problem is that, and this is where I get myself in trouble. The problem is that
never stopped you before,
right? They're really you're still safer going to school than you are on your drive to school, right? You're still safer in your school than you are on your drive to school,
especially if you live in Atlanta.
But well, I don't know, man, because living out in the country, those deers will get you. those deers will get you. There's been plenty of. I'm sure Hunter's known people. I've known people that died because they tried to swerve deer.
I never hit a deer, but
one
one hit me.
Out.
One ran right into me.
Yeah,
wow. Plowed right into the side of my van.
Deer will get you.
The only
they get you because you look at them, you're like, oh, they're so cute. So you swerve and you lose control, and they just look and they just keep going away. And you're like, oh.
The only time I had
is going to the sky.
And his experience with a deer was driving at night, and I was with Junie in the car, and we was like, oh, look at the deer on the side, right? Oh, wow, check that out. And then right when we got close to it, it jumped over the car. I was like, I braked so like that don't keep going.
Yeah.
And it'll hit the car and it's jumping, like it jumped over the car.
Yeah.
And Junie's like, oh wow, that's so cool.
You got lucky.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was
just in case anybody
ever.
wants to know, rule of thumb: if a deer runs in front of you, you hit him. Just hit him. Don't try to swerve because you're gonna end up killing yourself or getting yourself hurt, and the deer runs away. So
if it goes home.
So if your deer runs in front of you, bumper cars, hit him.
You can't just brake.
No,
just brake and let it go.
No, because if you slam, see that's the thing though. If you're going 15 miles an hour, but most time you're going 35, 40 miles an hour.
I was going slow.
And to slam the brake, you can still lose control.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So just hit them. I mean, you tap your brakes, but I'm just saying you don't swerve. You just go right at them.
Just hit them.
And then throw them in the trunk.
Take them
to the butcher, and you have some deer meat. But what I'm saying is that part of the problem is that with the news is so sensationalized this.
Yes.
That it makes you think that it's happening all the time. But statistically, if you go and look, it is not. And I'm not going to get into the
Please don't.
The weeds in that. But statistically, it does not happen all the time. You're still safer in school than you are. Than you are driving to school. And stop. We got to stop. We got to stop throwing fear into people, into our kids, and that's all that's what's happening. All this fear is getting ginned up.
If the news doesn't do that, then
and so that's why. So
have news to
just
sell.
remember, click it or ticket, and you'll be fine in school. You're safer there than
deer.
But let's
and run into the deer.
So
let's remember those victims.
Let's remember the victims
and their
pray
families.
for their families.
Yes.
We don't pray for the dead. We don't pray for the dead. I hear a lot of people that say that. Oh, let's pray for the victims. No, we don't pray for the dead. But we do pray for their families and their loved ones, right, who are left with that hurt and that loss.
Yes.
Right? So let's pray for the family of the victims, the communities, the churches, the people that work in the schools that have to, be a source of strength for the students that have to come back to school, So
let's do that.
So there was another shooting somewhere here in Clayton County at a graduation.
Yeah, Jonesboro.
I heard a blurb, but I didn't have time to look it up. But I don't think it was. I think it was in the parking lot.
Yeah, they were having an argument and
So it wasn't like a
guy
going in and trying to do whatever.
Cool.
So why don't you go ahead and go with the next news article, and that'll lead us.
I didn't want to send Junior his graduation on Friday
and
with a bulletproof vest.
And that'll leap us into our conversation.
Do we have a bulletproof vest?
No, we don't.
All right. So check this out. So
those are expensive. I looked into them.
on the whole thing with the news, right? Thursday.
Wait. Just give him a skillet. You can just get that skillet. You buy the iron cast skillet. You can have him in his shirt. That'll stop a bullet. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I had to get it out.
That would stop a bullet. On Thursday, news came in that an airplane in Cuba crashed. Like it took off and quickly crashed. And we're gonna touch base on that. We're gonna touch on that a little bit because the reason why we invited Hunter wasn't for him to just hang out and just be the third person on the show, but he recently went to Cuba it was a church plant that he's involved with, right, an organization he's involved with. But Cuba is near and dear to his heart because why plant a church in Cuba if it's not a place that's dear to your heart? And we know that this news affected him. It affected all of us, more so because it's people, right? But also on that plane, 10 pastors
and their spouses and
their wives perished, right? So, Pastor Hunter,
hi,
dale, habla. Wait. One thing about Hunter, he is probably the whitest white guy with the most perfect Spanish that I've ever met.
Yes.
Gracias.
And especially being from Statesboro. Like, you don't know about Statesboro. I know about Statesboro. And that is you pass if you go to Savannah on 16, you pass by Statesboro.
Okay.
All the way down there. Yes. God. Yeah, it's a party town.
It's a college town.
It's a college town. So Hunter, let's do this. Why don't you just give us a little bit about who you are to start off with, so that our 2 or 3 friends that listen to us all the time will know who you are. Just share us a little about your story and
Hunter,
who you are.
El Cazador.
He's a reggaeton artist on the side.
That was actually me doing all of that at the same time. Well, like Jae and Joaquin mentioned, I'm the pastor of Encounter Church here in the north side of Atlanta, and where these guys come to church. Been here for 4 years now, and what do you want to know?
So just a little bit of a thumb sketch of how you went from Statesboro to here.
Well, I was born, raised in good old Statesboro, Georgia.
Statesboro. Wow.
way down there near Savannah. And born and raised there. And when I was a teenager and got just radically born again in my church, in my youth group there, and had a youth pastor crazy enough to take the youth group on a mission trip. And we ended up going to Mexico and to a town called Casas Grandes in the state of Chihuahua. Yes, that is a place.
Nice.
Chihuahua is the state. It's actually the largest state in Mexico, land area-wise. And the reason Chihuahua dogs are called Chihuahuas is because that's where they were found.
Ah.
So the state isn't named after the dog. The dog is named after the state.
So they found these rats, and they were like, hey, they look like dogs.
Like prairie dogs. Really. They were like little rat dogs, little like prairie dogs that lived in like holes and caves and stuff like that in this northwestern area of Mexico called Chihuahua.
Beverly Hills, Chihuahua.
Yes.
Makes more sense to me now.
Yes, except watch Beverly Hills, Chihuahua, and when they take the dogs back to Chihuahua, that looks nothing like Chihuahua.
No, not at all, but still. But like when
Yeah.
the main one, the one that George Lopez doesn't
Yes.
voice for, like he's always talking about how Chihuahuas were hunters and they were cave dwellers and all that.
Yep,
and I'm just
that's
thinking,
right.
you know, it's just dialogue for the movie, right? Because they're purse rats.
Sure. I've never seen the movie.
So,
I don't have kids.
So Chihuahua is a real
Papi, I want to see the movie with the dog.
Chihuahua is a real place, and that's where I was 16 years old when I went on my first mission trip there, and God just really got a hold of my heart. At that moment, I had taken Spanish in high school, but what is that?
Yeah.
Like,
So he said, all the Spanish you knew was ¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Yes, ¿Dónde está el baño? No, and I laugh now because back on that trip, I remember they taught people to say, like sharing the gospel in the streets to people, you need to repent of your sins. And some of the teenagers were saying, necesitas arrepentirte de tus pescados. And people would laugh and be like, what? You don't know what that means is you need to repent of your fish. The word pecado is sin, but pescado is fish. And so
Nice.
we were evangelizing people to repent of their fish.
Of their fish.
And they did. So I guess they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that was Chihuahua. That was 1990.
So no fish eaters in that time.
That's right. They repented of all of it. The whole town. No.
The whole time. They don't eat fish anymore.
But anyway, Chihuahua, that was 1997. I think I was 16. And from there on, I just, felt like God was calling me to become a missionary eventually. And, I was in high school at the time. So I just took it upon myself to learn Spanish. So just basically learned it on my own. I hung out in Mexican restaurants all the time.
Right.
Became close friends with the waiters, and that's how I learned. I learned Spanish by talking to waiters at Mexican restaurants. And there was this one guy, Nacho, I remember.
That just means I'm gonna have to move to Poland to finally learn how to speak Polish.
That's right. Or go to a Polish restaurant and hang out.
There aren't any.
But yeah, I remember this guy Nacho. When we first met, he didn't speak English. I didn't speak Spanish, and in about a year's time, he spoke English and I spoke Spanish.
Nice.
Just from hanging out together. So
and did he repent from his fish?
he did.
Awesome.
No more fish
That's
the
great.
rest of his life until heaven. So, that led me to just. Anyway, the next few years, I kept going back to Mexico over and over again. And then when I graduated high school back in good old 1999,
I'm old.
I graduated college in 98.
I graduated high school in 90.
I did 94, yeah.
well, we all just revealed our age to you.
Hunter is a baby.
I'm your pastor, remember?
He's a baby pastor.
He's a baby pastor. Pastor baby.
Okay.
No wonder he was drawn to the stuffed Chewbacca. It was like,
Yeah, I'm looking at all the cool figurines here in this apartment. No, so I learned Spanish on my own, as maybe 70-80% of it, and then right when I graduated high school, there was an opportunity for me to go and help at this same church that was like a brand new church plant on my first mission trip in '97. They asked if I could come help. They had just started a school, and the guy that was their English teacher for the school was going to be out for the semester. So they said, would you come and help us for 3 months while this teacher is gone? So I was like, yeah. So I wanted to get to Mexico. I did not want to be an English teacher, however,
Right.
but that was the way to go. So
That's where
I
you
got
go.
there, and after I was there for a couple of months, I knew that that's where I was going to be. And so I committed to stay there for a year, committed to stay there for a second year. That became 8 years. Long story short, 8 years that I lived there in Chihuahua. And, within 3 months, my 70% Spanish became 100%.
Nice.
So I speak 100% Español Mexicano.
Which is that was one of the things that we noticed when we heard you speak Spanish.
Speaking.
Speak Spanish. We're
Yes.
like, oh, he speaks Spanish like a
Mexican.
Mexican.
Orale. So yeah, that was that, and so that became 8 years, right? In those 8 years, obviously, at first I was teaching English, but eventually, my heart was always to reach youth, and I was a wee little old youth when I moved there. I was 18 years old when I moved as a missionary. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm 37 years old, and I was like, Mom, you were 37 when I moved to Mexico as a missionary.
Wow.
My kid's just 6 years old. I was a grown man moving off to a foreign country when you were 37. And anyway, brought some perspective. But I was 18 years old when I moved there. And eventually, within a few months, I started not only being an English teacher, but I became the youth pastor of the church there. And, eventually became just one of the kind of associate pastors and leadership trainers there for our, what was at that time a new church plant, not so new later.
Right.
Helped to raise up the youth group, train leaders, started a leadership school there. And then after, it's funny, right before, what we now hear a lot about is the drug war in Mexico.
Right.
Which a lot of that was centered around Ciudad Juarez, which is Chihuahua, which is the border of El Paso, Texas.
Right.
Where I lived was only about 3 hours from there. And then the city where I lived, Casas Grandes, was right in the middle of all of that crazy bloodshed, people, shootouts in the street. I knew several people who were killed in that, in that period of time. And you don't hear a lot about it anymore, but it's still going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's just a lot else going on, so you don't hear about it as much. But in 2000, say late 2006, I felt like God was telling me, your time here is going to come to an end. Now, granted, the 8 years I lived there, it was perfectly safe. Like,
Right.
I remember walking the streets at 1 o'clock in the morning, no big deal.
Get out of here.
Yeah, nothing,
Right.
and I wouldn't dare do that right now. But, and so, I mean, I resisted this feeling that my time there was going to come to an end. I thought I'd live there forever, I thought I'm a full-time missionary the rest of my life in Chihuahua. That's what I thought.
Right.
And because that my heart was in it, I wasn't looking for anything else. And long story short, through a series of events, I really knew that my time there was coming to an end. And right after, okay, let me put something else in there. I had liked this girl for about.
I was about to call you out.
Yeah, I had liked this girl for about two.
baby.
Yes. 2 to 3 years, and I hadn't done anything about it, and I was getting ready to leave Chihuahua, and one day I really felt like God spoke to me and said, "You going to do anything about that? Like, you've liked her for over 2 years. Are you going to do anything? Like, it's now or never, man. You're going to move. You got to do something about this." So I did.
I am calling you
Right.
back out. All right?
It's
Yeah.
now or never.
Is she going to come with you or are you going to stay solo?
So another long story short, I married a Chihuahua. Chihuahuense, let me say it right. Yeah.
I'm not going to say nothing about that.
Yeah. The way the world is going, we might be able to marry Chihuahuas
yeah.
legally here
Hey,
soon. But
hey.
You threw yourself in a doghouse there. See what I did there?
Hey-o!
Oh man.
Oh man, I'm gonna put that one in my pocket for later.
I was getting ready to move from Chihuahua. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. I just knew that God had told me it's time. Your time here is up, and He told me I'm going to make you, more of a blessing to Mexico and other nations by taking you out rather than leaving you here. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what that meant, but I just said, okay, we'll do this. At that time, over the years, one of the things that I had done was help host other missionary groups. One of them was called Extreme Mission, and Extreme Mission was kind of like the Vineyard movement or the Vineyard denomination.
Yeah,
is that a denomination?
Yeah, Vineyard. They're like a denomination.
Yeah, so
even though they say they're non-denominational.
Yes. So in the
non-denomination has become a denomination.
Yes, in the early 2000s through the mid, before 2010 ish, Extreme Mission was the Vineyard youth mission
arm
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, summer mission trips, and so. The Extreme Mission was based out of El Paso, Texas, and
it's like up the street,
which is across the border from Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, Chihuahua, and then 30 minutes north of El Paso, Texas, is a city called Las Cruces, New Mexico. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Las Cruces, but I would get in trouble with all my friends from Las Cruces, but it's just a suburb of El Paso. So, anyway, but it's in New Mexico. So, Las Cruces was where Extreme Mission, and out of this ministry called Heart for the World, was based. And since I had worked with them several times, I kind of knew the Extreme Mission people, the Heart for the World people. And through conversations, I got invited to come again. This seems like a theme in my life. But to come for 3 months,
right,
and help with their mission program. And so I was leaving Chihuahua, and that was the place I could go. So I went. So I took a little break between Mexico and New Mexico. I went to Poland on a mission trip, which is really cool, which is dear to Jay's heart. Poland.
Dear to my heart. He did it. Whoops. Dear to my wife's heart.
Jay's playing you. What are you doing?
I am looking for pictures of Hunter for the cover.
Oh. If you can find any, let me know.
I have.
Oh.
You should like Photoshop like a tiny little chihuahua next to him.
In my pocket.
Like in his pocket. That would be such a great visual. And he could when he
poor
showed
Liz.
By
By the way, my chihuahua's named Liz. She's not a chihuahua. She's a beautiful lady.
Or I could just Photoshop a tiny picture of his wife and put her in his pocket.
By the way, Liz and I now have 2 Chihuahua mutts. Half Chihuahua, half white boy. Anna and Oliver, my 2 little baby Chihuahua, half Chihuahuas. So anyway, it ended up moving to New Mexico.
I'm sorry, I'm just remembering.
Hunter, you're just making us fall in love with you all over again.
I'm just remembering lunch at my house where Bean and Bean would go to his daughter. Hey, want to hold my hand?
We were arranging marriages.
Sit down together and watch TV, and I'm like, he's going to get into so much trouble.
Nice.
And she did hold his hand.
She held his hand.
Because Chihuahuas are like that. They're cool like that. I always joke, I'm going to get so much trouble if Liz hears this.
Well,
but she grabbed my hand when we first started dating. I didn't grab her hand to hold her hand. She grabbed mine, and she denies it. I think she'll deny it to her grave. But she did. She made the first move to touch my hand because Chihuahuas are like that.
I would say a few things like, she's Latina.
But she denies it. She still says like it's not true.
She's Latina. But like I have the same. We told you this. I had the same argument with Magda, right?
Right.
Because she swears that she didn't reach out to me first on social media, and I'm
No,
like, yeah,
she did.
Yeah, you did. I have proof.
I have a witness.
Joaquin was in the car with me, right?
Yeah, I was there. Jay was like, "Oh, look who reached out to me."
Like, who's that?
And I'm like, "Who's that?" And he was like, "I don't know. I think I just talked to her at the
like-
City Takers
He's
event."
like, yeah, but she was at City Taker, so. And then we remember we looked through her
Yeah.
pictures. Oh, she's cute. Okay, yes.
Hi.
I will accept your prayer request.
How shallow of you, Jay. Ashamed of
Oh,
you.
And here we are, 2 Puerto Ricans later.
I admit
That's right.
I admit that I'm shallow.
Yeah, me too.
I admit that I'm shallow.
I'm the
I'm
worst.
shallow.
I'm probably worse than you. But anyway, I'm worse than you.
Go
goodness.
ahead.
Okay, where was I?
So
I'm in New Mexico
So
now.
you're in New Mexico.
moved
You're
to
in Las
the Chihuahua.
Cruces.
Yes, moved to Las Cruces. Yeah,
Working
obviously
for
Liz and
Extreme.
I got married, and when we got married, she moved from Chihuahua up to New Mexico, and again, I was just gonna be there for 3 months, and then about 2 months into it, the leader, one of the best, leaders I've ever met, if not the best, Pastor Dale Walker. It was the head of Extreme Mission and Heart for the World Ministries, and our lead pastor there at Heart for the World Church in Las Cruces, he asked if I would become the youth pastor, and I was like, no.
So everyone at this table has been through the jaws of youth pastorship.
Yes.
Me twice. So I said,
several times.
I said, absolutely not. I'll pray about it. And yeah, I certainly wasn't there planning to be a youth pastor, but I eventually said yes. And probably one of the best decisions I ever made, because I hadn't planned to be a youth pastor, but one of the best things ever happened to me. I started before Liz and I got married. I started working with a handful of teenagers at the time, and then Liz and I got married, and that made it easier because you're limited to how much you can minister to young ladies when
Right.
you're a young man, and so
That's true.
Got married.
Very true.
That made the impact a lot easier and a lot better. So, again, long story short, this was a church that was a pretty big church for that city, but pretty much no young people, and we really saw like a revival happen with the youth at the church. What was a church with almost no young people became a church that the young people were the driving force of the church. And over a period of time there, we started doing something called Encounter Retreats. And that happened because when I first moved to Las Cruces, one morning I was about to wake up and I had a very vivid dream. And I'm not the kind of guy that dreams all the time, and God speaks to me through dreams. That's a few times in my life, but this was a very real moment for me.
Right.
And all I can remember in the dream was that Jesus was telling me, your main purpose is to help people encounter God, is to get people into a personal encounter with me. Just lead them there, and I'll do the rest. And so that's what we based our whole youth ministry on. We're just going to help teenagers, college students have a personal encounter with God, and He'll, take care of the rest. And so we just focused on that, and over a few years, we saw not only a lot of young people come to Jesus and come to church, but we trained them. We took very seriously the sort of the call to train them to be leaders. And over the course of a few years, we started a discipleship school, a leadership training school, a ministry training school. And a lot of those that had been like teenagers with us since they were 14, 15 years old, grew up through high school, went through college, went through our leadership training. And it really helped raise up the church there in Las Cruces. And then around, it was like right around the time we had Anna, so 2012, our first daughter was born. And I started really feeling like one day we're going to plant a church. And so when I mentioned that to Liz, she looked at me like, why would you say something like that? Like, why would we ever want to do that? That sounds really hard.
Right.
We, and I'll mention here, we kind of like, we were in a good situation there. The church had grown to a pretty substantial sized church. We had a good salary and all the good perks and insurance and all that stuff. And we weren't in charge. We worked for somebody else. We didn't have to make the decisions. We just did our thing, and we had total freedom to just do whatever
it was
we
like
wanted.
like a sweet spot of ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so it was like, go out and plant a church from scratch. That just sounds hard. So anyway, I just kind of like kept thinking about it, praying about it. I kept mentioning to her, and eventually she's like, okay, well, let's like really think about this. We mentioned it to our pastor there, and like immediately his first response was, yeah, you're called to do that.
You're like, no, you're supposed to say no.
You're supposed to say, well, let's think about that.
You're supposed to say, let's pray about that.
Yeah, let's pray about that for like 15 years. So, and I think that's what Liz was expecting, but he was like, yes. And so that for me, that was like, let's do it tomorrow, But I had to, have my wife on board. So we prayed for a while, and we decided to do like a 21 days of praying and fasting. And after that, Liz came to me. She's like, all right, let's do it.
Nice.
So this was back in 2013, around there. We went back to our pastor. We said, we really feel like that we're going to do this one day, and really, truly one day. We thought like pretty far out in the future. And he said, yeah, cool. So what we're going to start doing is pray more about it. You need to start like scouting out cities. Where do you think you want to plant? And we're like, I don't know. We're way out here in the Southwest. It was so weird because I grew up in the Southeast, and I never in my life imagined I would return to the East Coast. Never. Like, I never thought, like, I was happy out in the West, and I was thinking, like, Denver or somewhere out there. But there was this really strange thing that started happening to me. I just felt like I was being drawn back to the East. Like the force was calling me. It was really weird.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So the more I thought about it, the more it, that feeling grew, and we decided to take a trip to just like go see what we felt. And so Liz and I, and then my brother-in-law, so Liz's brother, Julian, his wife, Diana, and our brand new baby and their brand new baby, we all flew out here to the East Coast, and we drove literally through. We took a road trip through pretty much all of Georgia. Actually, Liz and I first started by going to Charleston, South Carolina, because we thought, well, that's a cool city. Let's go there.
Right.
Drove through all of Georgia, and literally we went to every major city in Florida, like Jacksonville, Orlando.
In Charleston, you wouldn't have survived there with the 100 elevation churches.
Oh yeah. So we drove through like Jacksonville and Tampa and Miami. We really thought we were going to move to Miami, and then we went to Miami, and we were like, we are not moving to Miami. And then because that kind of dovetails a little bit into it, because I started having this really strong feeling towards Cuba, because for many years I was like, one day I'm going to go to Cuba. I heard about how terrible and difficult the situation it was in Cuba for Christians, that Christians had to be underground, churches had to be underground.
Right.
And, it's illegal for more than 40 people to gather in one place and all this. And it's like, one day we're going to go to Cuba and we're going to do something in Cuba. But back in the day, that was kind of like just a dream, something that was impossible.
Right.
So I thought, if we move to Miami, we're like right there.
Right.
We can like almost see it. And inside of my heart is Havana, oh na na. I'm sorry.
I quit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't you ever apologize for a corny joke.
Okay.
Not around me.
Oh, anyway, so
how dare you?
That was a really serious part of the story. I had to break it, but
that's great. Man, no. Thanks. Now that's stuck in my head.
Now half of my heart really is in Havana, but so I'm gonna have to go back and get it. But anyway, we were gonna move to Miami because it was like that's as close as you can get to Havana. You can fly there. We can do missions in Cuba. We can be in the city where it's highly Latino and all that. And so anyway, we drove through Miami. And we're like, I am not moving here with my kids. No, sir. So then we thought we'll move to Tampa. Right. Mainly because it's really pretty.
Yeah, it's right there. It's not that far.
Yeah. So anyway, and yeah, I love Puerto Rico too. And the day we came to Atlanta, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. A typical rainy. We got soaked trying to walk around, do stuff in Atlanta, and but something inside of me knew that it was here.
It was
here.
Wow.
I didn't say that to anybody. I just knew on the inside of me. And the craziest thing happened. We got back to Las Cruces, and after a while, just thinking about it, we went and we talked to our pastor, and we're like, well, we went here, we went there, Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, all these different places, and Atlanta. And he looked at us, and I was sitting there with my wife, and he looked at us, and he's like, well, I'm not telling you. If you know Pastor Dell, you know this is the way he is. He will never, ever push anything on you.
Okay.
It was like, I'm not telling you at all that this is it, that this is what God wants, but I hope you won't discard Atlanta. Because, he started giving us all these reasons. But then he shared with us, he's like, back in whatever the year was. So at that time, like he said, about 25 years ago, I was preparing to move to Marietta to plant a church in Atlanta.
Wow,
Marietta, right. That's where we're sitting right now.
Yep.
We were going to move to Marietta. We actually went there. We were already making plans to move there to start a church.
Right.
We were going to move from El Paso, Texas to the Atlanta area, specifically Marietta, to plant a church. And it just fell through. It never happened. So we instead moved 30 minutes north into Las Cruces, New Mexico, and planted a church here. And so Liz and I were just like, oh, my God.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah. It wasn't for him. It was for us. Like, it's still going to happen, but instead of them coming to do it, we're going to come to it. So we knew, we just knew it is Atlanta for sure. And I'm like, I knew it already, and so we decided Atlanta. But the craziest thing was, he told us, most pastors don't do this. Most pastors want to keep all their people.
Right.
But he said, well, I've planted 2 churches, and if there's one thing I've learned, is that if you could start with a small group of people that already knows you, and they know your heart, and they know how you work, and they know your vision and your values and all that, it'll save you some time. It'll save you some hard work.
And heartache.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said, so you should share this with some of the people that you know, and some of the people here that you've trained even, and invite them to maybe say, hey, would you like to come for 2 years to Atlanta? Oh, nah.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Okay. And that one didn't work. All right. So see if they'll commit to going 2 years with you.
And I actually laughed at that one.
Yeah. And so we were like, who is gonna just get uproot and just move across the country? And if you've never been to New Mexico, Georgia is a different world. It's
right.
It's still the United States, so there's Starbucks and McDonald's.
Right.
But it's totally different culture.
Yeah.
New Mexico is border culture. And a lot of people in Georgia have never even been to the border.
Right.
And
only the border between Georgia
and Alabama or
Tennessee, right?
And Alabama.
So anyway, you're thinking, who's going to move and do that? But there's probably maybe a handful, 2 or 3 crazy people that are adventurous and say, yeah, we'll do it, So again, that's another long story short. We shared it with...
You went with 20 people.
We shared it with a group of people thinking 2 or 3 people are going to come with us, and 22 of us, I think, ended up moving here in 2014.
It's amazing.
So we shared it, and we were like, we can't promise you anything. We can't promise you anything at all. No position, we're going to nothing. We're starting from scratch. Save your money, enough to live for a couple of months, get there, find a job, find a place to live, and we're going to start a church. And so we started making the move. The first of us moved in March 2014. I think by August-ish, pretty much, at least 20 of us were here. And we actually started before everybody got here. We started in the basement of our house. We eventually found this tiny little place on Lockhart Drive in Kennesaw. It's right around the corner from the campus of the university.
Right, yeah.
We started there with the 20 of us. And I guess the rest is history. I talk like we've done a lot, but we're going on 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Going on 4 years. September officially will be our 4 years since we started Sunday service. And that little building where we started could hold about 70 or 80 people comfortably. And I say comfortably because it wasn't comfortable. There were 2 toilets in the whole building, and one of them was inside of a kid's classroom. So during service, that one was unavailable. So there was one shared bathroom for men and women during services, and then the air conditioning unit was like not fit for crowd. That the building wasn't meant for a church, it was meant for like a office building. So once we started getting more than like 40-50 people in there, it started getting really hot again. So we got to the point
for deodorant. So you say that you started with like 20 people in that place, right? So how did people outside of the group that came with you, that knew you, that already, built with you, how did people start coming to your services?
We just started making friends. Like, one of the things we were not here to do was to be the next cool church to get people from other churches. We weren't here to be the next great show. I mean, no offense at all meant towards anybody, but there's a new church plant on like every corner around here. And there's kind of this feel of you got to make a big show to get everybody to come to. And I just felt like if I put on a big show and people show up, then I got to live up to that show next week.
But then they come for the show.
Then they come for the show. So it's like, no, what we've got to do is just like missionaries. Like we just got to start getting to know people. We got to start making friends. So we did. I remember the first guy that got saved at our church, the first guy that like truly, we could say our church is Encounter Church. He truly encountered Jesus. His name was Kwame, and he was our cashier at Publix. And we have a Publix like right up the street from our house. We just go there. We got to know Kwame. He became our friend. We invited him over for dinner. College student, introduced him to other college students. He came to church, and eventually he became like our way into the campus of Kennesaw State to start reaching more college students.
Wow, nice. That's dope.
Yeah,
that's great. I mean that's great because that is the prevailing thought of church starts nowadays seems to be, like you said, kind of, even if not a show, but it's got to be cool. It's got to be relevant. It's got to be
launch big.
Yeah, launch with 200 people, because me and Jay have heard this. I was like, oh, you got to launch with at least 200 people, and you can't launch your church unless you have 200 people, and it's like that's a lot of people. And then
we launched with 20.
He launched
30 people. But
I always say
30, 200. I did read somewhere that they were talking about 200. I do remember that.
Yeah, that is a model. Start big. Start with 200 or 300 people.
That was ARC, right?
Yeah.
ARC was like 200 or something like that, and it was just.
But you build for a year so that your first service had 200 people. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we launched with 20, and I say that because I don't. We launched. I don't think launch is the word. We had a service. We started.
Well, listen, because I know from our perspective, Jay visited you guys first. I was visiting somewhere else, and I mean, Jay was just like, he was like texting me. He's like, "Yo, worship is awesome." He's like, "Yo, pastor's bringing it." Like it was just, and so
he's not scared.
Yeah, he's like, "Pastor's bringing it," and he's not, and he like, I forget what it was. He was like, "Oh, he just said this." I'm like, "What?" So I was like, "I'll be there next week." So I came the following week. Matter of fact, that message you're preaching and you say something, I was just looking at Jay like, "Did he just say that?" Jay's like, "Yeah, he just said that," because it's weird that we've gotten used to. And this is a great thing. Like, this is a compliment. So we've gotten used to pastors holding back or not really saying things because they don't want to offend anyone, or they don't want to. They don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
That actually made it hard for us to find a church.
Yeah,
because we've been either just staying at home and bedside baptizing it. Yeah, just made that into a verb. Or just like visiting different churches, and we hear the bubblegum stuff, and we're like, nah, come on, man. I mean, worship is cool, but get out of here, right?
It's beautiful PC messages.
But that's the problem when you've got like two guys that have been.
Yeah, I mean, I grew
up in the church.
Yeah,
have had leadership positions, have done the Bible college thing, right? So it's like, dude, come on, you can do better than that.
Yeah.
Right?
So here we are, and so you met us, and now your life has changed forever.
Ever for the better.
I don't know if
I don't know if I'll say for the better.
That one is still out. The jury is still out on that one. We'll see.
We'll
see how mad your wife is if she listens to this.
She's not allowed to listen to this.
That's got nothing to do with us. We didn't even egg that on.
I know, but you know she's gonna blame us.
You drew it out of me.
You know she's gonna blame us.
Yes.
She's gonna come to us and be like,
Liz, if you're hearing this, it is officially their fault.
So
como ustedes son boricua.
yeah, it's gonna be done. All right, so then real quick, we got about let's see. Okay, yeah,
we're good.
So then, all right. So now you guys have been here. The one cool thing that we like about Encounter, is you guys, and I get it because of your background, but the missions thing, like you guys are sending a team to the Philippines later this year, I believe it is.
We just went to Honduras in November.
Yeah, you have Honduras, and then
Philippines, Cuba,
and then you got the Cuba thing that's just in the, I guess, early stages.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the Cuba thing, because that's being Caribbean. That's what we
Interestingly enough, one of the reasons we chose Atlanta is because ATL. It's the world's biggest and busiest airport. You can go anywhere on a direct flight. So what a better city?
Except Poland.
There's no direct flight?
I think now there is.
Okay.
Yeah. But
so
it was like, I think like last year or 2 years ago.
There's no better city to have a church if you want to do missions than Atlanta. Like, you can go, hop in the car, go to the airport, and you're there. I mean, so, but yeah, with my my missionary background, that's just what I am. That's
the two of you missions. Me, not so much.
That's naturally gonna be part of our church culture, and so after we were able to build the church to a certain point, starting it's hard to get things off the ground, get things going, but we finally got up to about 120 or 30 people, and from those people that began to come here from the Atlanta area, a lot of them had never ever been anywhere anywhere outside of the country. Even much less on a mission trip.
Right.
So it was like, we have got to start taking people. I can go, but it's one thing for me to go. I mean, I recently went to Peru on my own and, some other stuff, but taking people, that's just part of who we are. And so we decided to take a trip to Honduras and to take a team. So we did that in November. Actually took my, at the time, 3 and 5-year-old on their first ever mission trip. That was really cool. To Honduras.
That's crazy.
Yes, and it was crazy. But yeah. So, and then this really cool opportunity came up out of the blue. This thing in my heart about Cuba, and knowing one day we're going to do something there. There's this movement called the Surge movement, and if you've never heard of Surge, you need to look it up, surgeproject.com or .org, or just look up the Surge Project. But the Surge is a church planting movement all over the world. In the past, I think about 15 years since they started, they've planted over 23,000 churches around the world. And get this, their most recent one, a testimony I heard, was that they found people living in the canopy of the rainforest, like naked tree people.
Yeah, right.
That live in the trees, and they've planted 3 churches in the trees.
Get out of
in the trees with the people living in the trees. Yeah.
Stop. We're done. Edit. Wow, that's amazing.
What country?
I got to get back to you on that one.
Trees.
I forgot.
So
they did tell us.
Is it South America? Somewhere in South America?
Somewhere South
right?
America.
That's
either South America or the Pacific. Asia Pacific. So I know. I think it's more churches. Like over towards rainforest treetop churches. How cool is that?
With Tarzan.
With no clothes. How cool.
Talk about don't fall asleep during service. Yeah. That's a long way down.
So anyway, the Surge was talking about, like, we were at a conference and they were presenting, like, this is what's happening all around the world, and they talked about Cuba, and they were saying that how there's a church planting, like, revival. There's a movement in Cuba right now. It's still somewhat underground because Cuba's still not totally open. It's still Cuba, yeah, and but it's happening, and so it was like, if you want to help plant churches. Basically they say this is how much it costs to plant a church in this country. This is how much it costs to plant a church in that country. Different places around the world, it costs a different amount, because basically what they do is they find pastors and they train them to plant a new church, and then they're like on a waiting list, and you can partner and you can raise the funds. And what they do is they fund a pastor for 1 year to give himself full time to start a church.
That's awesome.
And so, so they don't have to do anything else but just give themselves to the church.
Vastly different from the launch with 200 strong model.
Right.
Exactly. So we were like, well, how much is it to plant a church in Cuba? And they were like, $1,200. We're like,
$1,200?
$1,200 for a year salary.
$1,200.
$1,200. 1,000.
1,200.
200.
I just can't believe it.
Right. Way less than what most people make in a month here. So we were like, well, okay, yes, that's a little bit. But when you got a brand new church with a lot of college students, $1,200 is like $12,000, you know?
Yeah.
But we were like, let's just do this by faith. We're going to commit. We're going to say, Lord, we want to give you for Christmas. So this was like June of 2017. We want to, by Christmas time, we want to give Jesus 3 churches in Cuba.
I'm sorry. I'm just in disbelief, right? Because I'm thinking, like, the thought that hits me is, like, $1,200 is nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It's nothing, right? You get all these.
Well, it's nothing here.
Yeah, no, but this I'm talking about here. You know, everybody come tax time, they splurge and they throw money away on like different garbage things. You know, I want to get $1,000 phone.
My pops are not garbage.
Along with
I don't appreciate that.
You know, I'm gonna get $1,000 phone with a $400 watch, right? Woohoo! With my taxes, right?
That's a whole church.
That's a whole church.
Yeah.
Right? That's incredible.
Yeah.
To me.
So we said, let's do it. Let's commit to, like by faith, we're going to do this. We don't have $3,600 extra, like on top of still a brand new baby church budget that makes it by a miracle every month. That we still don't have enough like regular tithes and offerings in our church to sustain the church as it is right now. We still depend on miracles that come from the outside every month. But let's just commit. We're going to do this. And that was June. By the end of August, we had done all 3. The goal was for Christmas. By the end of August, we had done all 3 churches. We had raised it, we had sent it, and then for Christmas, we did a 4th. So we just like, let's do an extra one for Christmas. So we were able to send the funds to plant 4 churches, new churches in Cuba. And the guy that's the director of the Caribbean zone for church planting for the surge, he's like, well, Cuba, you can't send the money. Like Mexico, you can send the money. You can put it in the bank account or Brazil or whatever. But Cuba, you cannot send the money. You have to hand deliver the cash because it'll disappear probably, you know? So it was like, so we have to go.
It's still Cuba.
Because it's still Cuba, yeah. So we have to go hand deliver the money. You want to go? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to Cuba. This is like a dream come true. This was never, I had no way of making it possible. I had no way of going to Cuba. And then I get invited to go take the money that we raised to go plant 4 churches and go take it to them and meet the pastors that are doing it.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
The last week of April, my brother-in-law Julian and I, we flew to Havana, Onana. Sorry.
No, that's I approve.
Jay just
Thumbs up.
like sank into the microphone. No, we flew to Havana and we were able to, with a few other pastors, like, I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but like divvied up the money on the plane because you gotta, you know, don't have to declare all that money. And we got there and we were able to go in and meet this one main pastor who started what Serge calls a strategic church. In Cuba, it's illegal to gather more than 40 people in a gathering because they'll accuse you of rioting, a revolution against the government.
Yeah.
And this church
like
has
North Korea.
This church has 300 people. It's like a super mega church for Cuba.
Right.
And they're flying under the radar because they're doing it in such a way. They literally, instead of calling it a church, they call it a party center, and they have parties every Sunday. They have Jesus parties every Sunday, but it's a church. And then
ain't no party like a Holy Ghost
party. Yeah. Because in Cuba, you can have a party,
right?
Like an event. It's like a venue for parties, weddings, whatever. Right. So what they do, churches can't own property in Cuba. So what they did was, only individuals can own property, and you can own a party center. So what they did was they invested this money into this party center. That's what it's registered as, and they have parties every Sunday.
Nice.
And so
we were wondering about that. Remember, we talked about that.
now they could still totally get in trouble. They're risking it every day.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
It's totally a risk. So we pray that they
we gotta pray
Stay under the radar.
yeah.
So what's the name of the church?
Nueva Vida.
Nice. So
Yes.
we have to make sure we keep that church,
And that-
Nueva Vida,
Right.
in Cuba,
In
in our
Cuba.
prayers.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and through that strategic church, they're the ones who are helping these other pastors all around start the newer, smaller churches. Which literally, we went to one that was in the pastor's garage. Like that's what they do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we want to
that's
start a
good.
church. I'll give my house for
That's
the
what we
church.
saw in the
That's how we
video,
do
right?
it. Yeah. So it's like the garage. I mean, you call it a garage. It's more like a cement slab, open air.
So Marquesina.
Right. I might
Yeah.
have seen it,
Yes. So they fill that up, and then everybody else just like overflows out into the street.
Yeah.
And that's how we have church. So
Wow.
we got to go do that. That was really cool. And we're gonna go back, and we're gonna keep planting more churches, and we're gonna start taking teams to Cuba, tourist trips.
Ooh,
To
now
plant-
now you've. Well, no, I don't know if you want
to
take
plant
me to Cuba.
churches.
No,
I don't
take Joaquin.
I don't
to
think
Cuba.
Jay will let me go to Cuba.
No,
I might
you won't come back.
I might disappear.
Oh,
You'll be like, "Where is he?" And I'll be,
He stayed.
smoking a cigar with some old Cuban
He
man,
stayed.
drinking cafe,
drinking cafecito and
and smoking a cigar.
in an actual party center, listening to a live band.
Listen to some Afro-Cuban stuff.
I'm not taking you.
Be like, Joaquin. They'll be like, "Where'd Joaquin go?" Hunter be like, "I got it."
No, it's just like
He grabbed me by the ear. Get over here.
with your hat,
My hat,
with your hat and your
guayabera. Yeah, because we asked Hunter.
looking like you're from there.
Yeah, because I told Jay, I was like, "Hey Jay, ask Hunter to bring back a cigar for me," and Hunter was like, "No." Man. All right, Pastor, you get one.
It's not illegal anymore.
Oh, but that's amazing. That's awesome. That's super exciting to hear because I've always felt that a church that invests in missions, regardless of how big or small it is, that's a church that's gonna be a live and vibrant church. Regardless of numbers, right?
Right.
But it's gonna be a church that is gonna be vibrant and people are gonna be loving God and growing because without that, I mean that's what we're supposed to do anyway, right? I mean that's
what we want.
that's
That's
the
what
call,
we're
and
after.
that's the call, and you see a lot of church. My dad was a pastor of a church one time, and my dad when he was a pastor, he used to say, give, pray, go. That was what we need to do. We need to give, pray, and go. And one time, right before he got kicked out, this lady in the middle of a very contentious meeting was like, "Oh, pastor, we give and we pray. We're just not going people." And lo and behold, that church, if it's still open, probably has about the same 15 people that are super old, barely hanging on because they just don't have that mentality of we need to go. Not even go. They didn't even want to go to their neighbors. They didn't even want to go to the
next door.
They didn't even want to go. They didn't even want to go to the trailer.
They go to Publix.
They were mad. They were mad that people from the trailer park were coming to the church. Like that's how messed up it was. Yeah. So
No,
so it's always
Nobody got time
exciting.
for that kind of
Yeah.
church.
So it's always exciting, and that's one of the things and Jake can attest to this. One of the things that I always look for in a church is, well, what's your missions mindset? Not that you have to be doing it now, if you're a new church, but
What's the vision?
But what's the vision?
Yeah.
Is it like, and once we get, that's step number 4, as we get these steps, we're looking at blah, 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 or whatever. So yeah, man. So that's super, super duper exciting. I can't wait. I can't wait to go. I'm going to Cuba, by the way. If I have to wrap myself,
Joaquin is
fold myself
more-
into a suitcase.
more missions minded, and he's got the heart for missions more than I do. I mean, I have the heart for missions by sending Joaquin.
Right. Well, I don't. My thing is,
Because I come from more of an evangelist background, and you've done
you know,
more
you come
mission
right,
trips.
that legalistic background. So what it is, yeah. So I grew up Southern Baptist. So knowing, Southern Baptist, for whatever their faults are,
do missions.
huge on missions.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew this kid whose parents were missionaries in Africa, and he was like, "Man, yeah, the Baptists always had everything." I'm like, "Yeah, because the Baptists support their missionaries."
Yeah.
Like, so I grew
You've been
up.
to Africa, right?
I've been to Ghana. I've been to Nicaragua, Tijuana. I've been to when I was 18, I did a whole summer in Florida. going to migrant towns,
Oh, cool.
doing surveys and stuff to find places to plant churches.
Did you go to Korea? Or
Been in Alabama.
Was that just the church?
I did go to Korea. Taught English at a school, but I was supposed to go teach. But that's one other thing. But I did go to Korea.
No, because Joaquin was a youth pastor
at a Korean church.
at a Korean church.
2 different Korean churches. Yeah, that's always.
when we met,
That's always.
when we met,
Yeah,
he was
that's
a
always
youth
the
pastor
look.
at a Korean church. Like,
Korean. You're not Korean. I was like, you don't know. By then I was heavier. So anyway, I'm getting myself in trouble. Not that I care. Yeah. So I've been to see San Diego. I've been to Texas. Yeah. So I've been Fort Wayne,
Been
Indiana.
around the county.
Yeah. I've never really necessarily felt like, I'm gonna go be a missionary, but I've always enjoyed going on the trips and bringing people.
Yeah.
Because it's so life changing. Even if you go for a week or 2,
Oh yeah.
it's so life changing that even when you come back, and it's funny because even when you talk to people that maybe left the church, like that still made an impact
Oh,
on
yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
They still remember that time when they went to,
yeah, I've only gone
fill in the blank.
to one mission trip. I was 12, and I went from a spoiled brat to to a kid that, like, I still give away everything. So it is life changing. But and I also remember I told you that there was also a pastor who was like, "Oh no, God called me and told me to be here." And after one day, he went home.
Yeah,
Kiss God.
yeah.
Made up.
Of course, my thing is to, like, I always like to pick on people because we had a friend, I can't remember who it was, that we're going on a mission trip, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna stay at this hotel, and it's like air conditioned or whatever." And it was like, I was like, "That's not a mission trip. You got to sleep on the floor." That's a real mission trip.
It's a real mission.
When I was in Africa, I slept on the floor.
With the bugs.
Yeah,
Or Scott Free. He went to Bolivia
yeah.
and he slept in the underground tunnels with the kids to reach those families that were like living in the old
Yeah.
like,
So
tunnels
Where?
in Bolivia.
Oh wow.
So yeah. So that,
was like, you were where?
yeah. So
You
the
were
idea,
where?
yeah. The missions focus. That's fantastic. That's always exciting to,
Yeah, so you have
to hear.
well, Encounter as well now the 4 church plants in Cuba and
Taking a team to the
a
Philippines.
the
school in the
Philippines.
Philippines, is it?
It's called Hope Centers. That's another one. So I told you about Surge Hope Centers. HopeCenters.org. That might be right too. But Hope Centers is another missions organization that it's kind of like threefold. They do they feed kids,
Right.
and so it's mainly in the Philippines. They also actually have a Hope Center in Lithuania, but
Oh.
it's for the elderly.
That's interesting.
Because in the Philippines, the kids are hungry. In Lithuania, when people get old, they're kind of forgotten. So the elderly are hungry. I know it's awful, and so, and then, and I'm hoping we're gonna help them start a Hope Center in Cuba. But anyway, Hope Centers is mainly in the Philippines. They feed kids. And then as they feed kids, they disciple kids. They teach them the Word of God. And then they have something called Dream Release, which is they choose kids and pay for them to go to school all the way to college.
Nice.
Wow. And so anyway, they feed them, they disciple them, and they send them to school. And so and we helped Encounter Church. We helped. Also, earlier on in 2017, we helped start a new Hope Center on this island called, I think it's called Tauson. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
Probably not, but that's okay.
anyway,
Say it with confidence, Pastor.
Tauson.
Yeah.
It's in a,
Keep it moving.
it's a little island on this big, huge river. The river that if you look it up, if you Googles it, is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Is that
Googles. Always at
it?
the S at the
It's
end.
on the Googles. It's the river where they caught the world record biggest crocodile.
Ooh.
And kids swim across the river to go to school.
That's bananas.
So,
How are these kids not in the Olympics?
right.
Because they got to
so-
be real fast.
You got real fast to out swim Lake Placid. You know, like
Giant, strong, muscular legs.
yeah. So anyway, we helped start the new Hope Center for these kids, and then when we found about them swimming across the river, so the reality is a lot of them can't go to school because when it rains and the river rises too much, they can't swim across the river. So the most recent thing we did was help them. They're building a ferry boat for the kids to cross the river every day to go to school. And so we're helping them do that. So what we're going to do is send a team over there to that New Hope Center.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome.
In October. Yeah.
Wow. A lot of stuff. You have anything else, Jay?
Hold on.
What? Jay is...
He's still looking for pictures of
He's
me.
doing...
No. I'm looking at the biggest crocodile ever caught. 21 feet long.
That's nothing. It's a baby. It's a baby crocodile.
2,369 pounds.
Okay, now that's a little
That's
heavy.
with all the people inside that he ate.
It's a lot of burgers. It's a lot of crocodile burgers.
Near the village of Consuelo. It's funny how a lot of Philippines and Filipino cities have
Spanish. They were
yeah.
ruled by Spain, like a lot of places. Like everybody.
I had to look it up to see it
Yeah.
because, like, imagine a 21-foot crocodile, right, jumping out of the water, because these things jump out of the water,
Right.
right?
And you're a 4'3" kid. Like that is.
I don't want our Hope Center kids swimming across that river to school.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
dope.
that's
That's dope. So, nah, I'm done. I'm good.
Good. I think we've mined Pastor Hunter for now.
I better go pick up my kids. They've been quite a while with the suegros.
That's okay. That's
That's
with the
okay.
abuelos. They're fine.
Yeah, tell them
They're
you.
more-
Hey,
they're-
your
they're more than
suegros
fine.
love me, so just tell them you were with
Okay.
me, and they'll
Would
be
be
like,
good.
"Oh, Joaquin, okay, yeah, it's fine."
Suegros need to call back to Mexico and find Joaquin a wife. Anyway.
All right. We'll work on that one.
I'm gonna get a Chihuahua.
Joaquin needs a Chihuahua.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, coming soon.
Because I'm laughing.
We posted it. Well, I posted it on Instagram last night. We're gonna get into a series, right? We promised you guys a series like we did last season with God Culture, and it's called Savage Christians.
Savage
and we're gonna have different people come in and speak on
just different topics within that.
the heart of biblical focused confrontation, right?
Yes.
Like biblical focused confrontation through love rather through emotions or anger or whatever right?
it is. So that's the tease. That's the
tease.
That's the teaser. It'll be coming. It'll soon. Me and Jared talked about it earlier. We got a couple ideas, so we got to kind of iron those out.
Also, we're migrating everything. ThisIsOutcry.com to theoverflowpodcast.com.
So
Right,
the
so
Overflow Podcast.
expect that in a week or two.
Com.
I'm working
That'll
on
be
a lot
up.
of other things too.
Yeah, we're like switching up some stuff. We're gonna
We're
be
streamlining a bit.
Yeah, we're gonna be amazing. A little more amazing than what we are now. At least that's the hope. So
That's it.
as always, thanks everybody for joining us. We're glad that you're here. Thank you, Hunter. We're really glad that you
My
came
pleasure.
and
It
hung
was
out.
fun.
You're always welcome. My name is Joaquin,
I'm still Jay.
and this is the Overflow Podcast.
Thanks for listening. Remember to head on over to ThisIsOutcry.com for more content. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, or Stitcher.